Hello students, today I am going to explain about interfaces. First of all, I would like to explain about what is interface. Interface means it is an abstract class, but the functionalities are different. When you are creating the interfaces, the body it's contain but cannot implementing the any data, cannot implement any code on that interfaces block. But class as well as interfaces, both are the syntaxes are very similarities. It's having very similar methods. We are creating the variables, we are creating the methods in the interfaces, but never to implement any code into the interfaces. So here, why we are using the interfaces? When you are declaring the inheritance, the inheritance concepts are very limited to designing the code, and the reusability purpose also there are some rules are there. Means when you are creating the inheritance concepts, we are extracting the data from either base class to derived class, or grandfather to father to child classes. We are creating the just either single inheritance or multi-level inheritance or hybrid inheritance, but cannot support into the multiple inheritance into the Java. In that place, we are replacing the data into the interfaces concepts. So here we are creating the multiple interfaces, but when we need the interface, that interface only we are calling the method into the class functions. So here in interface, none of the methods are implemented, means interfaces defines methods without body. Here, interfaces are syntactically similar to classes. Means when you are creating the class, when we want to create a class, we have a syntax. On that syntax, class name, and followed by the open brace, and followed by the declaration of the variable declaration, and again followed by the method declaration. Same as the interfaces also, we are creating the variable creations and method creations also declaring, but without any body. But it contain final variables which must be initialized with values. When you are preparing the interfaces, when you are declaring the interfaces, definitely should for declared with the support of final is a keyword. Final keyword, we have to define the variables. In this interface, once it is defined, any number of classes can implement an interface. Once a class can implement any number of interfaces. Once a class can implement any number of interfaces, means we are creating the interface 1, interface 2, interface 3, up to interface n we have to declare. There is no limit for declaring of the interfaces. But when we are declaring the interfaces, when we want to implement the code on that interfaces methods, definitely should need the support of class. So here, if you are implementing an interface in a class, we must implement all the methods defined in the interface, as well as a class can also implement its own method. We are implementing the interface methods, as well as we are creating the methods into their class own properties, it will be defined. So interfaces add most of the functionality that is required for many applications which would normally resort to using multiple inheritances in object oriented programming. So, how to define an interface? How to define interface? So here the syntax is, first you should the declared as the specifier, access specifier. Access specifiers here, the either public, private, protected, we can declare the access specifier. We are calling the functions in outside of the class, we have to declare must public. Here public interface name, and public return type of the method name. We can declare any type of the method name we have to choose. There is no restriction for the names and numbers or whatever it is, we can take any method we can declare with the support of parameters list. And final type is what is final data type. We can declare the variable and local variable declaration and assigned for the value. This is the syntax for interface. First we can declare access specifier and followed by the keyword is interface is a keyword, and interface name you can take any name here, and access specifier should declare means either private or public or protected, then followed the return type of means either integer or float. Data types you can declare, sometimes you can take void method also here, and parameters list here. Method before method return type means we can take return type of data types, or cannot return type of data type you can take, then declare the variable for final data type, and where one is variable name is equals to value, you can assign the value. Next, where access specifiers is either public or it's not given. It is not given. When no access specifier is used, it results onto default access specifier, and if it interface has default access specifier, then it is only available on the member of the same package. When it is declared as a public, the interface can be used by any other code of other packages. We can access the data into the any other classes. We can extract the information into the interfaces into the classes. So interface name, the name and interface, it can be valid identifier. And any class that includes an interface must implement all of the methods. Variables can declared inside interface declaration. When you are starting the open brace and between the open brace and closing brace, we have to declare the variables and methods into the interface block. They are implicitly final and static, means they cannot be changed by implementing it in a class. They must also be initialized with a constant value. Example of the program interface name is the item, and we can declare the variables here. Static final int code is equals to 100, static final string name is equals to fan, and the method is void display. Void, it is the cannot return type of the method name. And next one is next interface is created followed by the area. The interface name is the area. Interface area, static final pi value you have to take here. Final 3.14f, and float compute. Compute is a method. Float is the return type of the data type, and float compute followed by the parameters list here. Float x comma float y, and method we have to take in that show method. So how to implementing the interfaces? Here, once an interface has been declared, one or more classes can implement that interface. One or more classes must be declared. If you want, you can more than one or more. If you want to declare the one interfaces, or you can declare the multiple interfaces into the creation. But implementing the class, one class is must enough for the implementing of multiple interfaces. To implement an interface, include the implements class in a class definition, and then create the methods declared by the interface. The general form of a class that includes the implements class looks like this: access specifier, class name, and extends is a keyword. Extend is a keyword for inheriting of the methods, but here the class body followed by the methods. If the class implementation from more than one interface, names are separated by the comma, means class name, and implements is a keyword. and followed by the interface 1 comma interface 2 comma, like that we have to take the interface up to interface n. If a class implements two interfaces that declare the same method, then the same method will be used by the client of either interface. The methods of that implement in an interface must declare as a public. The type signature of implementing the method must watch exactly, must match exactly the type signature specified in the interfaces.